have with the VA medical care system. I'm here to change that. With your support, we can get the care that our veterans need. God bless Texas and God bless America.
I'm Raul Reyes, and I approve this message.
Paid for by the Raul Reyes for Congress Committee.
Joe Biden promised Ukraine $1 billion if they fired the prosecutor investigating his son's company.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
But when President Trump asks Ukraine to investigate corruption, the Democrats want to impeach him, and their media lapdogs fall in line. They lost the election. Now they want to steal this one. Don't let them.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Please return to the Doc Green Show. This is Marvin the Martian. When you miss it, you make me very, very angry. And we are back, and welcome to the show. It's a Monday, just in case you're wondering, on June the 1st. And, of course, want to remind you that June the 6th, me and a few hundred of my closest friends are going to be up in Odessa, Texas. And we're going to be up there to stand up for the Texas State Constitution, stand up for the American Constitution, and to just stand up for righteousness in general. We're not like those Antifa thugs. We're not going to be up there wearing masks. We're going to be up there standing up for what is right. We're not trying to hide our identities. We want to do the right thing. Now, Greg Abbott, our Democrat governor, has declared a state of disaster as of yesterday. He's authorized federal agents to serve as Texas police officers. Does anybody out there think this is a good idea? Every Texan, every American has a right to protest, and I encourage all Texans to exercise their First Amendment rights, said the governor in a statement, but he had his fingers crossed behind his back. By the way, I'd like to remind you that he did not show up at the Capitol, even though he lives just across the street from it, when we were all up there. So he said, violence against others and the destruction of property is unacceptable and counterproductive. Well, I would agree with that. He said, as the protests have turned violent in various areas across the state, it is crucial that we maintain order and uphold public safety and protect property damage against property damage and such. We know that here in Houston, if you were anywhere downtown, it was a bad scene down there. Now, allegedly, this is because of this one George Floyd guy that died. Now, I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop on this, and finally it is starting to drop. And I've been somewhat impressed with some of the information that's been coming out since that shoe has dropped. Well, we've been getting some information on who this George Floyd guy really is, and he's not who a lot of you guys thought he was. I guess by now you probably knew that he had a criminal record. He had been involved in a lot of nefarious dealings. What a lot of you probably didn't know was his alter ego. He was an actor. And I thought that was somewhat interesting. He was an actor. He was a porn actor, but he was an actor nonetheless. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And there are a lot of things that don't absolutely make sense when you look at the news and you look at the way that some of this has come out. And I don't have that whole list in front of me right now, but I've gotten it from a couple of people. Just a lot of things are just not what they used to be. And I'll let call screening get that because I don't know who it is. By the way, Robert Litton, our good truck driving buddy, has said, that's it. He said, I've got to quit driving. He said, I'm just going broke out here. And I've heard that from any number of people. because these truck drivers, they're just making such a small amount of money per mile, it doesn't make sense. And a lot of them have been taking loads below cost just to have something to do and bring in a little bit of money, but you're wearing out your machine while you're doing that. And then when the time comes to repair your machine, and this is why truck drivers deserve to make a lot of money, you're going to be writing a check for even a minor repair. It's going to cost you $3,000 or $4,000. Darlene Renard posted this letter. Said the American trucker will not be held hostage, threatened, robbed, or killed. We will not be a victim. I don't know if you saw the video. Or not of the truck driver that was stopped in a city, and he had protesters ringing his truck. This is why I encourage you to read that book, Patriots of Treason. If you haven't gotten your copy, you should order it today. All right, Ted Holden, what are you bringing to the show?
Hi, Doc. I posted something on your Facebook group page this morning, which is worth taking a hard look at. It's like about 3 hours worth of videos, right? And it's in 10 parts. It's an update on Pizzagate and the situation with QAnon and the reason for all the panic right now. I don't know if it's just me. You might have noticed nobody's talking about COVID-19 this morning.
Yeah, well, that's because that's already run its course, so to speak.
Yeah, I know, but it's like what the situation you've got is like the Roadrunner show. Do you remember that? Like,
yep.
Cartoons in the 1970s, 80s, whatever it was.
Roadrunner, coyotes after you.
Every weekend, every Saturday, the coyote had like a dozen new tricks he wanted to try, see if there's any conceivable way.
Yeah.
To catch the Roadrunner, right? And one thing, then another thing, and we've been seeing that, right? I mean, this is, tell me if it's my imagination, but I mean, you start off like from 2016, right? You've got the, the Russian collusion hoax, right?
Yep.
And then you've got this impeachment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got COVID-19. That didn't work, so people are losing their fear of that. And so now the idea seems to be, okay, let's try burning down 10 or 12 or 15, American cities, right?
Yep.
Am I missing anything? Is there anything else that I left out? Or
well, yeah, you left out a few things, but you got the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, look, the whole thing's a scam. We all know it,
right?
And we all know this is about getting Democrats elected nationwide in November because they're
it's
Bill
about staying out of prison.
Bill de Blasio came out and said this is all Donald Trump's fault. We wouldn't have any of these problems if Donald Trump wasn't
right.
Such
Yeah,
a
it's
bad
about
guy.
staying out of prison.
Yeah.
Do you remember the interview that I did on your show like last December?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we were talking about Pizzagate and this island of Jeffrey Epstein's.
Oh yeah.
And the satanic practices. And the thing I posted this morning goes into that a whole lot deeper. Okay, I mean, this is a lady who's like a very, very good analyst, right, a journalist, who has basically just made a very major study of Pizzagate and QAnon, and she documents the case that there's reason to believe that something is about to hit the fan very shortly, right? So, I mean, why are these people panicking the way that they're obviously panicking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pulling out every stop, right? I mean, they're not going to leave any stone unturned.
No doubt.
And, I've seen like pictures, photographs of piles of, pallets of bricks, which are being, free for the taking, right?
We talked about that on the top of the show, and they're showing up in numerous neighborhoods across the United States. But also, my friend Frank pointed out, said, yeah, bring a brick to a gunfight.
Right. That could be a problem, but, and then you've got like the situation in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where I don't know what the numbers really would be, right? It's like you had 70,000. You had Borka-Bunga parked 70,000 Somali Muslims in the Minneapolis-St. Paul region.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that does to the picture, right? I don't know how much worse the situation becomes on account of that, right? I mean, You understand the problem with Somalis, right?
Yeah, well, absolutely. They are even the other Muslims don't like Somalis.
Yeah, I mean, average IQ in that place is 68, which is literally 2 points below retarded. Okay, and then it's 99% Muslim, right? They create problems wherever they go.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, what that does to race relations in a place like Minneapolis, St. Paul, I don't know, but it can't be good.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, you've got that for starters, right? I mean, you have a situation where, you know, you've got like pictures going nationwide of a white policeman, you know, with his knee on a black man's neck.
Yeah,
right?
and there's so many questions about that story, like why 8 minutes he had his knee on his neck, and 8 minutes he had his hand in his pocket. Cool as a
very strange.
cucumber.
Apparently, these two men knew each other.
And then the other interesting thing is the cop car license plate says police. Where in the world, anywhere in America, do cop car license plates say police?
Yeah, it doesn't. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a number of things about that story that don't add up, right? That's obvious, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, does something like that, is there any automatic way that something like that gets turned into a nationwide riot? I don't think there is. I think this is heavily orchestrated. You know, the piles of bricks, right? I mean, I think this is the work of George Soros. Donald Trump declared Antifa to be a terrorist organization the other day. I think he needs to declare the Democrat Party to be a terrorist organization.
Well, that would probably be a step too far, even though I would agree with you. But, I mean, some of the questions that had to be asked about this. Why is the cop in the restaurant surveillance video different from the one that Mr. Floyd is found lying behind? Why is the car different? The numbers on the car are different. And why are the cops in the surveillance footage arresting him different than the police in the actual incident?
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been able to keep up with this whole thing, Doc.
Yeah, and one of the videos, you can see a gas sign that shows diesel fuel at 99 cents a gallon. But currently the price is $2.49 pretty much everywhere. That indicates that the film may have been an older film that was brought in. And then once again, a police car with a license plate that says police on it? I don't think so. And also the two officers in this incident are actually together by marriage. Did you know that? The officer Tao, T-H-A-O, and the officer Chauvin, both have been previously investigated, by the way, for excessive force use, but they've never been charged. But Officer Chauvin is married to Officer Tao's sister.
Right.
And both of these guys worked as security guards at a nightclub called the New Rodeo. They worked there for 17 years, but they were laid off because the bar was shut down due to the COVID virus. So,
boy.
And the neighbors say they didn't know the guy was a cop because they never saw him in uniform.
Right. No, like I say, I mean, I don't see, you know, and given the fact that, you know, this cop has been charged with murder.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, straight off the bat, there's no delay in that happening. Then I don't see any way. I mean, the American people just aren't that stupid. I mean, this is not going to create, you know, just spontaneously. It's not going to create like a nationwide spate of riots.
Not spontaneously, unless somebody helps it, and that's what we're seeing.
No, this is orchestrated. This is heavily orchestrated. This is the work of George Soros. It's the work of Democrats, right? I mean, it's there's no way around it.
Now, the other question I have is if the guy even really dead, because I saw two reports. One of them was the alleged autopsy report where they said he did not die of asphyxiation. So that was interesting in itself. But if you watch the video of the EMT workers who happen to be wearing police uniforms, including bulletproof vests, if you see these EMT workers wearing police uniforms and bulletproof vests pick up and dump unceremoniously the unconscious patient on the stretcher, this is not how trained emergency workers would take care of a person that might have a possible neck injury. And there's no attempt to triage him or to apply CPR. They just pick him up, throw him on the stretcher, and carry him off.
Wow. That's just crazy. Sounds like you've made more of a study of this one than I have. It's like I have not been able to completely keep up with it, except, let me ask you another question. It's like, I mean, last night apparently they burned down the little white church next to the White House. I have to believe that Donald Trump would be real pissed today.
Oh, I believe that he is. But, you know, here's the thing. Donald Trump is a patriot. And he's just like you and me. I mean, yeah, he's a billionaire. Or at least he used to be. I don't think he probably is anymore. He's lost a lot of money since he took this job. But he grew up with the average guy, the blue-collar guy out there in the street is who he grew up with. And these are the people that he knows and he feels aligned with. And, yeah, he goes out and he plays golf with multimillionaires on the weekend. But he has never forgotten those people that got him there. And he thinks like you and I do. So I can guarantee you, he right now is mad as hell, and he is pulling his punches and looking for the right opportunity to do something good. And for those of you watching on TV right now, you're watching Darlene Renard's video from the Alamo on Saturday where our friend Ramon got a big shot to the face and just stood there and took it. Amazing. So I can tell you there is definitely Democrat support behind this. And it's not an accident. For some of my friends, you saw posted on my page, they had a picture of one of these rioters. But if you look close, he's got an earwig on. He's got the little clear curly cord going up behind his ear. This is not some spontaneous rioter that just showed up, is it?
No. Look, Doc, it's like, like I say, I posted this thing on the Facebook page for the Amazing Doc Green Show this morning. Take a look at it when you get a chance. It's in 10 parts. It's like about 3 hours worth of viewing. And I think this will give you as good an idea of what it is these people are panicking over as anything you would come across. It's very interesting.
Well, which page specifically did you put it on? Because I've got several.
It's the Amazing Doc Green Show on Facebook.
Okay.
The Amazing Doc Green Show page on Facebook.
Because the actual broadcast page now is right side of the mic, but I've never taken that other page down. It's just that for some reason they would not allow us to get past 3,000 likes on that page, no matter what we did.
Really?
And so we opened the new page right side of the mic, and now we're past 20,000 likes.
Right. No, this is on the Amazing Doc Green Show page on Facebook. And give me a second. It's right up at the top of the thing. It says
there it is. I see it. Yeah. Update
major
on
update on QAnon and
Pizzagate.
Pizzagate.
Yep, I see it there.
Okay, it's got a link to that program that we did like in December, and then also this the study that this Dutch woman has done, and this is just to die for. I mean, it's completely unbelievable. Page part 5. If you only had to watch one part of it, watch part 5. Right, that one really goes into the nature of Pizzagate. And this James Alefantis, right? Jim Comet.
Yeah. Yep. Comet
right,
Pizza.
and that stuff is real. That's not anybody's imagination. That's not some kind of a right-wing conspiracy theory or anything at all. That's real.
No, it is real. And the other thing that a lot of people, it got lost. Remember some crazy right-wing guy went in there and shot the place up with an AR-15, but the only victims were the hard drives in the computer room.
Oh, I know. That's real.
Yeah.
That's scoring an A for convenience.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep, nobody hurt, no bloodshed. However, the hard drives in the computer were destroyed. Right. Oh, dadgummit. Crazy right-wingers. Yeah.
I know. Okay, well, listen, Doc, that's the message for today. That's the thing. When you get a chance, you have to find time to do this. Sit there and watch as much of that as you can, right?
Well, guys, check it out. It's there on the Amazing Doc Green Show page. That's all one word, Amazing Doc Green Show page. And you guys can check that out. Ted Oldham put that up there. And the graphic says Saturn Death Cult. And for those of you that have followed the show for a long time, you've listened to all of that. But for a lot of you new listeners, and we have a lot of new listeners, that's something that I think you'll find interesting. So check it out. Thank you for calling in, Ted. I appreciate it.
Good enough. Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. So anyway, Ted Holden. We've gotten into a lot of really good stuff with me and Ted. So, and you guys can check out some of those old broadcasts as well. I've got a story here that I wanted to bring to you. And once again, I've lost video, so we are flying blind. I've lost all of my instruments, and I can't see anything. God willing, I'm getting a new computer in the next 2 days. So thank you for those of you that have contributed to make that possible. You can make donations to the show by going to doc@avexpert.us on PayPal. doc@avexpert.us for Uncle Sam on PayPal. And I appreciate those of you that do donate to make these things possible. And particularly since we're going on this little trek up to Odessa, it's very expensive, and I could use your help for that. Thank you very much. And there are those of you that have contributed mightily, but have asked to be left anonymous, and so I will respect your request. But I thank you, those of you that have done those things. From the butcher shop, choose your side. We now have a civil war. The events of the last 4 days are nothing less than a total collapse of social order. Now, I'll admit the killing of George Floyd was tragic, and I further agree that the officer who killed him was comfortable with it. Why else would he sit there with his knee on the guy's neck for 8 full minutes with one hand in his pocket unless he was comfortable with it? Man, makes no sense at all. Showing that the police in that town had been doing this sort of thing for a while. Well, now we know that the guy wasn't even really a cop. We know that he was a security guard. How did he end up with a cop's uniform? We don't know that. But just when the so-called protesters chased the president into the basement, we need to consider the options. For too long, we've been Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, queers, steers, anything but Americans. It took a man getting his head stomped off to make us realize that it's been completely out of control. And the only thing we believed was that the police were out there to serve and protect. Well, they served up George Floyd pretty damn good. The chief of police has protected him. It shows that the Minneapolis popo are not total racists. They brought a tank down in an upscale residential street yesterday, and then they shot a young girl in the coochie because she was standing on her own front porch wearing a mask with a paintball because she didn't go inside upon command. Are you mad yet? Well, I'm just glad they shot her with a paintball, personally. That's me personally. Things are going to get worse before it gets better. The only good thing is that we're about to find out just how contagious COVID-19 really is, because social distancing went straight to hell in these demonstrations. We will have the results of this little lab test in about 2 weeks. Oh, America's going to survive. Forget that. Texas will survive, too, and then maybe we'll secede and pull the Yankees out of the garbage can. They shredded their Constitution a long time ago. We'll have to print a new copy and make them read it. It's just simple. Restore the rule of law and then observe it. Oh, and President Trump, get out of the basement. Well, I don't know if he's in the basement, but we have to protect our president, and we don't know just exactly how wacko crazy these guys are. And we do know that there's been significant infiltration into our government by the leftists. Some other questions we have to ask, though. If someone is kneeling on your neck, is it possible for you to still be able to speak at length for a period of time, even if you can't breathe? Because George Floyd could, but then he was an actor. Why is a white man that looks like an undercover St. Paul cop in black and riot gear carrying a black umbrella walking around breaking windows, and others dressed similarly starting fires and instigating this riot? Remember during the JFK shooting, Umbrella Man? Why were all the rioters leading the destruction of the neighborhood in the beginning of the riots white guys? And they weren't from Minneapolis. Yet they were in a black neighborhood after the police killed a black man. This is exactly the reason I didn't go downtown, by the way, because I figured it wasn't a good place for an old white guy. My friend Lynn Swanson, however, did, and he got out okay. So maybe, I don't know. Why were almost all of the rioters leading the destruction of the neighborhoods white men and not from Minneapolis? That is a question. Why did the chief of police make it a point to say that those inciting the riots were not from Minnesota? The other question, and this is very interesting to me, is why is the CNN news crew not only detained but arrested? Those are all really excellent questions. And what about, Amy Klobuchar? She was the county attorney in Minnesota. The same cop had a questionable shooting, but she sent a no bill to the grand jury. Same cop. Now she might be Biden's running mate. I don't know. It's a question you should perhaps be asking yourself. So, I don't know why I'm having to deliver or deal with all this stuff. I don't know why my computer display is going bad, but like I say, God willing, I'll have a new computer here in a couple of days, and we'll get this going. George Floyd's brother, by the way, didn't seem to be particularly sad, but he told the rioters that are causing destruction in the name of his brother to stop it. Said, don't tear down your own old hometown. It's not necessary. Well, according to the police chief, these guys, this wasn't their hometown. They were imported rioters. Who imported those rioters? Why do we not know? If his own family and blood are trying to deal positive with it, one person said, they should go another route to seek justice. But he said, why are you tearing up your own community? Because when you're finished, then you turn around, you want to go buy something. Well, you done tore it up. So now you're all messed up in your own living arrangements. This is the same thought that has occurred to me in the past. Like, for instance, when the basketball games in those upper north Midwestern cities, and the teams would win the game, and they would go out and turn over police cars and set them on fire and break out store windows to celebrate their team winning the game. And I always said, yeah, that's it. Your team won. Celebrate by tearing up your neighborhood. I just don't know, folks. I just don't know. On Friday, they fired Derek Chauvin, but then, according to the record, he'd only been working for them for maybe a week or so because he'd been a security guard at a nightclub. And all his neighbors said, I didn't even know he was a cop. And then, according to this other guy, he said, look, when I looked at the videos, not only was that dude on his neck, but you got 3 other officers standing behind the car next to him so he can't move on. Lots of questions you have to answer about this, and I don't know that we're going to get any answers about it. But I can guarantee you there's something afoot here, and Eric Mann is the guy that asked all of those questions, and I wanted to bring them to you. But something is afoot here, and we should be keeping our eyes open. So I don't know. Chaplain says, Commie Dave is white. Antifa, overwhelmingly white Antifa. No question about it. So, anyway, I thought AV Expert US was down. I didn't even know it still existed. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'll check. You're looking at video. That is video that was shot Saturday by Darlene Renard at the Alamo. And that is where This is Texas Freedom Force held the line until the cops could get there. But look at those crowds. Why do they want to burn down the Alamo? What is so racist about the Alamo that they would write on there that, it's white supremacy? Do they not know? Well, the answer is they don't know because they don't teach history in the news anymore. In the schools, they don't teach history. Then they don't tell the truth on the news. Hello, Missy. Nice to see you. So that's Darlene's video right there. Running with an AR-15 is a little like running with scissors. I don't recommend it. You could get hurt. But once again, this is Texas Freedom Force, so the ones that were standing there defending the Alamo from these protesters who fully intended to burn it down. So let's see. Wow. Are you sure that website is still up? That's crazy, because I told them to take it down. Simply because business had gotten so slow, I didn't see any point in paying for it to be up anymore. No telling. No telling at all. Anyway, so there's that video. You guys are watching it. It's pretty impressive. But the good news is the Alamo is intact. There was no damage inflicted on the Alamo itself. The red spray paint that they had damaged the cenotaph with has about 95% been removed. It did leave some stains, and I don't know if they'll ever be able to get those out. But maybe that will work, because after all, that is the empty tomb. It is there to signify the death of the defenders of the Alamo, some of whom were Hispanic in origin. So it wasn't about whiteness at all. It was about liberty. And the reason we had the Battle of the Alamo is because Santa Anna had rescinded the Constitution and instituted a dictatorship. So you can see I'm trying to get up there, but fortunately the This is Texas Freedom Force prevented that from happening. And at one point in time, if you saw the photo, they were not just defending the Alamo, they were defending the cops that were defending the Alamo. So that was fairly much impressive. A lot of construction going on there, by the way. In other news, now, I don't know what to make of this story necessarily, but I'm going to bring it to you anyway. All of a sudden, my internet has slowed down as well. Police in Kansas City discovered pallets of rocks and bricks near protest sites on Sunday. We have discovered pallets of bricks in several places here in Houston in nice neighborhoods parked on the sidewalk. Kansas City police said that the officers believe that this is because there's a pre-planned destruction wave about to hit the city. He said, we have discovered all of these stashes of bricks and rocks in and around the plaza in Westport, obviously there to be used during a riot. As in most major cities across the United States, protesters gathered over the weekend, and what began as a peaceful protest ended up in violence and looting. Spokesman for the police department said he has not been able to identify the source for the bricks found near the protest sites. He said, I don't know who would have put them there. I don't think they're doing any type of construction or anything like that. I sense they're probably there for nefarious use. I know here in Houston, at least one pallet of bricks that was discovered outside a nice neighborhood had been there for several days. Piles of bricks and rocks have been spotted all across cities in the United States, stoking concerns. And it stoked my concern as well. I should tell you that. It did. So what we did is we prepared. We made sure that all of our defense devices were ready to use, that they were properly loaded, locked. All the batteries and night scopes are good, things like that, because we care about these sorts of things. We want to make sure that they are good. So, and Randy said, we need more boots on the ground across Texas. Come on, Texans, let's take a stand. Yes. Well, Cindy Gaskell is one of those people that has been taking a stand as far as the Alamo goes. But I'm telling you that we're going to need a lot of you up there in Odessa on the 6th, unless the Alamo is threatened again. And I guess if I got to choose between the Alamo and Odessa, I'm probably going to end up at the Alamo, because the Odessa damage has already been done. We're simply going up there to let them know that you just can't do this stuff in Texas. So the video you guys are watching is once again Darlene Renard's video from last Saturday. The New York Police Department's top counterterrorism spokesman said the agency has analyzed the tactics of these anarchist groups. And he said that they have organized medical teams near the protest sites in anticipation of the violence. Said they are prepared to commit property damage and to direct people into these areas. They want to go selectively into some of the wealthier areas and hit some of the high-end stores run by corporate entities. So they use bicycle scouts to direct the violence. The scouts are able to direct the groups from larger groups to places where they could commit acts of vandalism, including torching police vehicles and throwing Molotov cocktails where they thought officers might not be. I know that I saw a video from L.A. where they had at least a dozen police cars that were just completely totaled by the protesters. Incredible. Scott Johnson on Powerline said, after watching yesterday's news conferences and protests live on local TV, I can only offer my impression. The protesters have taken over the city streets and highways more or less at will. I wonder if the authorities will just throw in the towel again today. My impression is that Governor Walz is not up to the task. So, Walz has a new shibboleth for all you Bible scholars. He is creating space. He's creating space for the vacuity in the face of the mob. Once again, the police here in Houston in particular apparently were operating under somewhat of a stand-down order. A shibboleth, by the way, is a tradition or a custom that distinguishes one group from another. It goes all the way back to Old Testament Bible times. For one thing, it was a word that some groups could not pronounce properly, and that's how they knew they didn't belong to the group, because they couldn't pronounce the word. You know, like a Japanese guy who's got cataracts. And the other guy said, no, he drive a Rexus. So anyway, some people think that some of these things are actually being run out of China. Because there is a state newspaper in China calling for violent riots in U.S. cities in retribution for Washington's support of the pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. Oh, man, what a tangled web we weave. The column, written by Global Times editor-in-chief Hu Xijin, Xigin, I'll have to work on my Chinese pronunciation. Xijin, I think Hu Xijin, took aim at the Trump administration for threatening to impose sanctions on China over its new security laws in Hong Kong. Donald Trump did the right thing by doing that, by the way. I was greatly impressed that he said, from now on, we will no longer treat Hong Kong as a separate entity of China. Thought that's what China wanted. Except for that means that Hong Kong used to have pretty free reign to bring anything into the United States they wanted to at a very low cost, and that's now going to end. And you see the Chinese absolutely depend upon the Hong Kong industry to support China, because they're the only real moneymaker in China. Chinese officials ignored their reporting obligations to the World Health Organization and pressured the World Health Organization to mislead the world. That's why Donald Trump got us out of the World Health Organization, and he gave some of that money to Samaritan's Purse, which also made my heart glad. But who said the U.S. should just stay out of Chinese matters? I agree. So when all those Chinamen show up on our southern border, where almost 60% of them are coming from China, I think we should stay out of Chinese matters and stop them at the border. They had one Chinese guy who had raped a kid, and so they deported him to China. And he was back here in the United States in 6 weeks and raped another kid. Crazy, huh? A quick question for Pelosi and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo: should the Chinese government and the National People's Congress issue a statement to support the protests of the folks out there on the street? It seems to be what Beijing called what Beijing should do according to the logic of Washington, and that is to, since we cheered on the rioters in Hong Kong, they should cheer on the rioters here. Well, of course, the rioters in Hong Kong were simply like the men in the Alamo. They wanted their freedom. They wanted their liberty. And here we have rioters that say, no, we are mad about having liberty. We don't like having the good life in the United States. We want communism. We want one world government. I think we should load them all up and send their asses to China, personally. I think that would fix the whole problem. Anyway, China claims they're protecting national security, but the truth is that Hong Kong was already very secure. It was a prosperous, free society, and China didn't like it. So they wanted to solve that problem by dumping them. But that's an interesting thought. Just thought I would bring that out. Remember Reginald Denny? Let me see if I still got the chat room live here. Yeah, I do. Remember Reginald Denny, truck driver out in Los Angeles during the LA riots, where they put so many black businessmen out of business, including Star Parker, a former welfare queen who had started her own company and was doing very well until the black rioters burned her business down. Well, it's happening again, but I'm looking at the chat room because I wanted to ask you guys out there. Hello, Ann Carpenter. Nice to see you as always. And I want to ask you guys this question. Have you read the book, Patriots of Treason by David Thomas Roberts? Show of hands, please. Patriots of Treason, David Thomas Roberts. It's on Defiance Press. Used to be able to buy it on Amazon, but I understand Amazon has quit shipping books from Defiance Press. But I wanted to know how many of you guys out there had read that book, Patriots of Treason. You can get it in other places. You can get it at Books A Million. You may, at this point, even be able to buy it directly from DefiancePress.com. But I'm looking in the chat room. How many of you guys have read the book, Patriots of Treason? Because if you haven't, you're truly missing out. So here's the story. See, I already covered that one. Let's get out of this. I did find it rather interesting that Mayor de Blasio's kid got arrested at the at the riot. I thought that was fairly cool. Error 504, gateway timeout. What does that mean? Quit that. I had the story here somewhere. Here we are. A tanker truck driver likely made the biggest mistake of his life when he decided to drive up to a crowd of protesters in Minneapolis who were blocking the highway. They stopped him. He didn't want to run over them. It's unclear if the driver knew they were going to be there or how he actually got to that point, but seeing as how he stopped, it's unlikely that he knew what he was approaching. This is why blocking highways is both stupid and dangerous. Don't play in the street if you don't want to be roadkill. The rioters, who have been causing terror and mayhem across the country for days, then began to part like the Red Sea as the truck was moving through the crowd. But once the driver reached a full stop, they immediately began to attack him. They didn't know what was in the truck. They quickly flung open his doors, ripped him out, and then began beating him. Naturally, the media and leftist idiots on social media jumped in to imply that the truck driver was trying to run them down, but I assure you, if that was the case, he would have run them down, and he could have run them down all day because there's no way that a bunch of human bodies could have stopped it. But this is just like the riots with Rodney King back in 1992 when Reginald Denny was pulled from his truck and nearly beat to death. Reginald Denny, of course, at that point had to retire because he was permanently disabled from the beating that he got. He was unable to return to work after that. Well, here it is happening again. So, I pointed out to my own son, who's a truck driver, and to other people out there that are truck drivers, do not go into cities where they're having problems right now. I know you need to deliver your load and get paid, but it's not worth your life. And if you're going to go into one of those areas, this is why I wanted to know how many of you had read the book. Chaplain Gypsy Roberts said, I read it. And Pepe said, I read it. So you guys remember one of the early scenes in there with the truck driver. I'm not going to give you a spoiler. I'm just telling you, one of the early scenes in there dealt with a truck driver in this situation. That particular chapter changed my life. It changed the way I live my life. That's why you guys should get a copy of Patriots of Treason. I mentioned you heard it here, by the way. Patriots of Treason. Defiance Press has stopped advertising on the show because their books are not being shipped by Amazon.com. And they said there's no point in us advertising and selling books if we can't get the books shipped. So, anyway, tell them that you heard it here, and maybe if they can still sell some books, they'll consider reactivating their sponsorship of the show, because we certainly miss them here. By the way, the Lincoln Memorial and the World War II Memorial were vandalized Saturday night by rioting protesters who spray-painted messages in large letters on both memorials. Lincoln Memorial was tagged at the front entrance to the steps with "Y'all not tired yet?" The World War II Memorial base fountain was tagged with "Do black vets count?" The military statue also had a profane anti-police message. You guys can guess what it was. One of the things that they don't seem to understand is there's a lot of black police officers. If this is racist, if it was racist, that would be different, wouldn't it? But to me, I know too many people that fought in World War II. Most of them are gone now. But why do you want to desecrate their memorial? Because nothing could have been less racist than World War II. I guess there was a racist component, and that racist component was the Nazis. The National Socialist Party of Germany. National Socialist Party of Germany, that's what Nazi stood for. And they hated black people. They hated Jews. They hated anyone who was not blonde and blue-eyed, even though Hitler was neither. They wanted to build an Aryan nation. They were very racist. Who fought against that? The United States. A lot of white guys in the United States with blonde hair and blue eyes fought against that. And yet today, we see the left, and they are the same as the left has always been. Craziness, what it is. Once again, the video you're watching there, that is Darlene Renard's video.
Believe it or not, they have no choice but to listen to it. But that shit is actually being done. Like, they have to make a decision. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to do something. That's what we're doing. Like, we're actually doing something. So, like just sitting here talking.
Is it for here or is it for somewhere else?
It's for here. That's all I'm talking. I'm talking about here right now.
For everybody.
It's for whether they're in Texas.
I've never been into a protest like this before. This is actually my first one in it. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of how it works and how what people want, the solutions.
I'm gonna say real quick.
They let me help that as well too. There's ways we can do it. I can help. Believe me. Okay.
I'm gonna say right is wrong, but it's understandable. That's one thing I will say. Like I don't feel like people should go out there and do shit or do all that. But honestly, if you do it, you done it. Like I can't. Like that's fine. Like you're angry. Like I understand that completely. I wouldn't do it myself. But if my brother wanted to go lose somebody, I tell him not to. But I mean, if he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it. I understand he's angry. That's what I'm saying. I understand everybody out here is angry. And that's the problem. Everybody's angry. And like you can't really justify saying like people shouldn't be doing anything like that because people don't do what they do. Like, I don't know how to do it.
I mean, there ain't no way for that. It is what it is.
Like, that's just it.
Yeah, but it's good that everybody come together, and that's great. I like when people come together.
Nobody would be out here doing this though if they didn't.
Well, unity as one, bro.
As police.
We've been through some terrible shit. I saw what happened in Minneapolis. Man, dude, that was good stuff.
Believe me, there's officers are protesting that too out there right now. You know what I'm saying?
I don't get it though. Those 3 officers are not charged.
But you know,
yes,
but
they
this
were.
is what
They said they weren't. They're still out there in the freedom.
But I can tell you this, right? This is what can change. If those other states and cities and counties start hiring more people of color, I guarantee that will stop. But those cities and those people are not trying to change that. Their policies. They're trying to get limited Spanish and blacks in the police force. I get it. But here in San Antonio, it's beautiful because there's black police officers, white, Hispanic, Dominican, Chinese. I mean, you got all kinds, German, Russians. You got all kinds of officers here, and they understand it. Believe me, these officers understand what's going on out there. But we can't allow something to happen out there that affects the officers here. There's never been a racial thing with the officers here. Never happened. If there is, show me. I'll take off the uniform and I'll show you guys. You know what I'm saying? But nobody have never shown me where an officer in San Antonio, anything was racial. Never. So
maybe I think PD, but Bear County. So I'm not on these officers.
Once again, from Darlene Renard's video and at the Alamo on Saturday. The police have since closed the plaza to everyone, but I want to thank all the guys with This Is Texas Freedom Force who spent the night there previously after the vandalism occurred. They continued to stand up for what they knew was right. And I appreciate that greatly. So, I haven't talked about COVID virus because it really doesn't matter anymore. They want to talk about the numbers. 1,000 people died in the United States with COVID virus. I want to remind you that there are 328 million legal residents in the United States, and there are 65 million illegal residents in the United States. So if you add that up, we've got almost 400 million people here in the United States, and only 104,000 have died. Guys, do the math on that. What kind of percentage are we talking about? And I guess I'll do it because I want to know myself. So we got the calculator. We got our 1,787,000 fake deaths. 1,787,680 divided by 3. And we're going to count all the illegal aliens in this one too. 385 million. I'm undercounting the illegal aliens. So in America today, 0.004% of Americans have died from the dread disease. 0.004% of Americans have died from the dread disease, if you believe the CDC numbers. I can assure you it's probably 10% of that. 0.0004, because we know they're lying. We know they don't have any qualms about lying. Insanity and inanity going on. Anyway, thank you, Darlene Renard, for the video there. I do appreciate it. Keep your eyes and ears open, guys, because we never know when we're going to be called upon to have to go to the Alamo again. Meanwhile, a Minnesota City Council member has declared support for Antifa. That's wonderful. Black entertainment founder, billionaire, calls for $14 trillion in reparations for slavery. Now, suppose that we gave all the black folks in America $14 trillion. Now, I ask you this question. Does it matter if their parents were slaves? What if their parents weren't slaves? What if some of those black people came from black men that actually were slavers? Because there used to be a lot of that going on. In fact, one of the largest slaveholders in America was a black man. How do you determine who gets it? Does everyone that's got a little black skin just get his share? Do they have to show that they're at least 10% black at some point? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. But a wealth transfer is needed, said 74-year-old Robert Johnson, not to be confused with the famous black blues guitar player Robert Johnson, founder of Black Entertainment Network. He said that, think about this, since 200 plus years or so of slavery, labor has taken no compensation. It is a wealth transfer, denial of access to education, which is the primary driver of accumulation of income and wealth. It's a wealth transfer. Though he's no longer on the Forbes billionaires list, following his sale in 2001 of Black Entertainment to Viacom for a mere $3 billion, Johnson is currently estimated to be worth over $600,000. Perhaps this is why he wants to go big in terms of the figures so he can get some. There hasn't been a slave in America since 1913, I think. Well, even before that. When did slavery end? 1836, wasn't it? I'll just find out. Yeah, I think the last slave in America was somewhere around 1836. I'm looking for the exact number. It's hard to find. There's lots of stuff about the advent of slavery, but just not that many about the elimination of slavery. And why would they want to talk about that? So there's nobody in America that is a slave now or was a slave or had grandparents that were slaves. And now they're asking for reparations. Well, we'll see. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. That's the end of the show. Thank you for being a part of the show today. And God willing, be back here tomorrow. Same doc time, same doc channel.